Hello everybody, it's me again. And as is the case with most of these rant-style, talk-style videos, there's been something that's been rattling around in my brain that I feel like I need to make a video to be able to express my thoughts, get them out in the wild, to see if they make a lick of sense, or any licks of sense. Multiple licks of sense. I thought about making a joke where I lick the microphone, but that's a whole different genre of content. Regardless, I've been thinking about a topic that I've talked about a couple different times here on the channel, but I want to address again because I'm the type of person that continues to grow, and I try to, as I grow, allow myself to change my mind on different topics. I haven't completely changed my mind on a lot of the thoughts that I had in the initial video, which I think I said all adaptations are bad. Instead, I'm going to be approaching the topic of adaptations from a little bit different perspective, while also sort of explaining how my views have changed. And specifically, we're going to continue to talk mostly about the idea of a book to movie adaptation and how those so frequently tend to disappoint fans of the original medium. In my previous video, I looked up different definitions for the word adaptation, and most of them use circular reasoning to try to define an adaptation as an adaptation of something, which is an awful definition. But the definition that I think works the best for explaining what it is and explaining what it's trying to do, the biological definition of an adaptation, like in evolution, namely that one thing has to change parts about itself to sustain itself in a new environment. Obviously, here we're talking about books that are being turned into movies. Recently, on my Twitter, which is linked down below, I asked the question, what do you think the purpose of an adaptation is? There were some pretty good responses to that, including taking off the fan base, tackling the story in a new medium, a joke which actually fits my definition, to survive in new environments and evade predators, and then multiple answers, including Daniel Green saying, to make money. I asked the same question on my Instagram, got a lot of responses that were just money, but also got the responses, it is really up to whoever authorizes it, could be artistic, could be monetary, people create purpose, to market the same story to a different audience, which is similar to one we got on Twitter, and the funny response, movie adaptations are 2-hour-long trailers for the book. And I could say that the trailer response is wrong because trailers shouldn't spoil all the main elements of the book, except that a lot of trailers these days do spoil main elements of their story, as if you couldn't interest people in watching a story unless you spoiled it in the trailer. And I think there could be a lot of reasons for someone choosing to try to adapt a series. I think a lot of the responses that I got to that question on social media are accurate, in which there can be lots of people who have various different emotional reasons for choosing to adapt a series, like maybe it meant a lot to them, maybe they would like to get a crack at trying to tell the story in a different medium, but in reality, the only reason why any of these things would practically happen is because someone thinks they can turn the story into money. Business decisions have to go through multiple layers of people making business decisions, so the ultimate reason why an adaptation might get a green light is definitely money, whether the creators who are passionate about it care about making something that's faithful to the core of the story, which I'll get to later. The goal of the adaptation is ultimately going to be, how do we make money with this thing? I've stated some of these points before, but they are relevant to the current discussion. In order for something as a movie to be able to make its money back, it needs to be able to appeal, generally speaking, to a much wider audience than that of the books. Not very many people read, and the people that read tend to read specific types of books. Science fiction and fantasy books can be extremely popular, but not anywhere near as popular as the average person who's going to see a movie. These big box office movies, they're regular people, they don't read books. You're trying to reach an audience that isn't reading the books. But if you pick a popular book franchise, there could be name recognition for people that maybe don't read but have heard about it before. And there can also be a groundswell of a fan community that in the era of social media is going to be posting about it, so you have a little bit of free marketing, or a lot of free marketing depending on your property. So if you choose to adapt a popular book franchise, you're going to be starting with a certain level of hype already built in because the book franchise is popular among the people that read the books. Side note here, sometimes I think as readers we can feel validated when a book that we really like gets chosen for an adaptation for a movie, because sometimes I think it can make us feel like the story has more worth when other people in Hollywood are able to see that it has worth. I don't think that's true. I think there's multiple logical fallacies there, but it is the case that people think that way. And the reverse side of that is a lot of people love movies and television shows, and they really would love to see a visual representation of the story they hold so dear. And if you are a reader, you likely know that not that many people read books, so there may be a story that you super love that you want other people to be able to experience, and you know they've never experienced the book, so it can be exciting to be able to share that story that you love with someone else. Or in the case of a successful adaptation, lots of someone else's. And now I've already said enough stuff that you may be able to see part of the problem. There may be many reasons why the creators working on an adaptation are making the adaptation. It could be coming from a real place of passion. It could be coming with just money. It could just be coming with like, hey, this is a story that's already established. Let's start here. But the purpose and the reason why the thing gets created is to make money. But the expectation and the excitement from the people who are building that groundswell of initial social media hype, those people are excited to see a story they love told in a different medium. So already we have a conflict of interest. One side is saying, I love this story and I want this story I love to be told to other people. And the other side's ultimate goal is to make money, aka reach the most people. Now, I've already established that most people don't read books, but most people watch movies and or television of some sort. It's so obvious that movies and books are very different in their pacing, in their structure, in like so many ways. And because they are so different, the books need to be adapted, let's remember that biological definition, to fit in their new environment. Now, in my previous video, I focused on the fact that books tend to be a very long and dense experience, and movies tend to be a much quicker experience. Even the longest movies are like 3 hours long, and it's going to take the average person much longer than that to read a lot of the books that are getting translated into movies, especially in our world of science fiction and fantasy. Because of that, of course, things have to be changed, and a lot of things will need to be cut. Something that I've noticed spending a lot of time in the book community these last couple years is that when it comes to books, not the same thing appeals to everybody. This is jumping back to that previous point I sort of alluded to, which is that frequently when we are looking at books, if you take 10 people who all love the same book, they are very likely to love many of the same things, but also potentially love many different things and dislike some of the things that may be someone else's favorite. So if you take a book experience that's 10 hours long and has many different characters and many different side plots, and you try to turn that into a 2-hour movie, you're going to have to cut things that someone making an adaptation may feel is not that core to the story, but readers who are spending so much time with these characters, they may think the core of the story is an entirely different thing. Art is this wonderful and beautiful thing that can be greatly interpreted by the person who's receiving the art, and even two people that love the same thing may love different things about it. If you watch 2 different long-form spoiler discussions for The Way of Kings, you're going to hear about a lot of the same plot points, but you also may hear very differing opinions on all of the different pieces and how necessary they were, or how long they felt, or whether they were worth being in the story or not. Even if you have a lot of creative heads in charge of making an adaptation, what the frick? Some random bug just like jumped off my window. So even when you have creative heads that may love the same property that you do, even if they try to lovingly recreate the thing that they love about the story that you're watching, they may lovingly recreate the parts you don't care about and cut the things that you love most. That's just inevitable. Additionally, analytical and creative people can look at a work of art and come to very different conclusions on the theming, the pacing, like what was important, what wasn't important. If you're the type of person that likes watching video essays on YouTube, you've probably seen this happen, where you watch a video essay for something that you love, or even a property that you hate, and the person making the video essay draws out a lot of really interesting interpretations that make you really rethink the movie. There is a 0% chance that all of those things were intended by the creator of the thing. I'm not saying that people that make movies are stupid, they are artists. But go watch a couple video essays on any random TV show or movie, and they are going to be pulling in all of these incredible elements and building up shows in ways that is impossible that the creator intended all of them. Because as an art enjoyer who has our own experiences, when we experience the art that is being presented to us, we are going to use our past biases, use our favorite things, use the themes that we like, use all of these elements to interpret the thing in a different way. And all of this brings me to a practical test. And I thought of this while I was just taking a walk randomly. This is a little bit of a reverse application, but I'll try to go the other way also. Check out this photo of some construction workers building a railroad. As a creative exercise, if you want to, pause this video while looking at this picture and write 3 paragraphs describing what you're seeing in this picture. Now, I know they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so you could write way more than 3 paragraphs if you wanted to. You could ascribe meaning to this picture and ascribe backstories to all of these characters. You could choose to highlight the time of day, the temperature, the fact that two of these dudes seem to be watching one dude work. I am willing to bet if we took 10 people and we had them write 3 paragraphs describing this picture, they could come up with some pretty different things. And what if instead of just telling them to describe the picture, we try to also have them write how it makes them feel? Now, just think, this is only you, one person, writing what you think this picture is about. So you have a photographer who took the picture, you had the people in the picture who acted the way they did to get the picture, you have you trying to describe the picture. Now, what if we add some other elements? What if we took the picture as it is right now and we used Photoshop to change the lighting, the filtering, and the coloring on the picture? Does that change the way you might describe the picture if you were going to write it? That adds another person into this chain. Now, what if we added another step and put music over the picture? Does it change the way you would describe what you're seeing and what you're feeling? We've all seen movies. We know that all of those things can drastically change the way that we interpret what we're looking at. And we only have 6 people involved in this creative process. The 3 actors, the person that took the picture, you writing it, a sound designer, and maybe also a photo editor. I don't know if you've ever sat to the end of a movie and watched the credits, but there's a lot more than 6 people who are making decisions. And yes, movies do have people that are in charge that are going to have to approve or deny decisions, but also because the director of a movie is not directly responsible for creating all of those things. They're just responsible for trying to give guidance and make sure they all fit together. Another interesting thing to consider is, let's flip it the other way. Hey, if you're watching this video still and you're liking what I'm saying and you haven't considered subscribing to the channel or liking the video, please think about it. Just saying. If we were to take the 3 paragraphs that you used to describe this scene and or the way it made you feel, and then we were to give those 3 paragraphs to someone who has never seen the picture, and we were to say, go take a picture that looks like what I'm describing, and we were to take a different person and say, change the colors and lighting in this picture so that it matches this, and we were to take another person and say, add music to this, write music for this that matches what I'm trying to say in these 3 paragraphs. Now can we understand some of the complexities that go into the idea of adaptation? When we really start to practically think about the step-by-step process of how something gets turned from a book to a movie, thinking about these examples might be useful. And now is where we get to another interesting element. What is the goal of a creative person who has a lot of creative ideas when they are put in charge of making an adaptation? For someone that loves elements of the original work of art, they may really want to recreate the way that that art made them feel. But that's not the same as recreating the art exactly. What if the way the art made them feel is a lot different than the actual original art itself? Is that a problem? Well, if the ultimate goal of the movie is to appeal to a wider audience than the original piece of work, not necessarily. Creative people have ideas and they want to tell stories, and they don't want to just tell the same stories that other people have told. So what if you're in charge of adapting something and you read a book and you may really like the book and you may like the way the book makes you feel, but the way the book makes you feel deviates greatly from the original plot, so much so that you come up with a lot of your own ideas of ways that the plot could have happened differently. Or as we mentioned before, de-emphasizing the parts you think are less important to emphasize parts that you think are more important, or additional ideas you may have had on your own. Is that a problem in adaptation? And if the goal is to make money by appealing to the widest audience, then no. There is an expectation when you're making an adaptation that it is going to be some kind of recreation of the original, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. There's a sense in which adaptation becomes a different sort of fan fiction of the original thing. Maybe you loved the original thing and you want it to be the exact same. Maybe you didn't love the original thing and you want it to be different. Or maybe you love the original thing, but parts of it are not the best in your mind, so you choose to change those elements to better work. Right behind me are my copies of the Twilight books. The Twilight series was something that I read and I greatly enjoyed. I had a lot of fun reading that series. I had a lot of fun making videos about that series. If I were put in charge of adapting those books into movies, would I change large sections of Twilight to make it appeal to more people or fit the modern context or the way that culture has changed, de-emphasize some parts, re-emphasize other things, make it so that if you were a member of Team Jacob, you didn't get the middle finger? I probably would. I like Twilight. I'm a huge fan of Twilight, but the parts of Twilight that I like may not be the parts that you liked, and the sanctity of something gets thrown out the window a bit when you're trying to translate that into a different medium at a different time with different people and a billion cooks in the kitchen. Something that I've learned is when an adaptation exists, it does not actually alter the original thing. Even if for some reason it were to be officially designated as canon, you could always just ignore that and enjoy the book that you always enjoyed. Honestly, even if you're reading a sequel to a book that you loved, you can still love that original book even if the sequel is awful. It's even easier when you distance yourself further to an adaptation in a different medium. All of these things being said, if you are a fan of something that's getting turned into an adaptation, it's really cool if they pull out the things that you like and you can enjoy it and you can love and continue loving the thing that you've always loved. But remember, if the point is to make money and the point is to reach a larger audience than the person that enjoyed it in the first place, you aren't the target audience and you aren't really the person that the creators are trying to please, or at least the people that pull the trigger. There may be tons of fans of things working on the project, but the ultimate goal is to make the movie for people that aren't you. And I guess if the goal is to make more money than just the book made by itself, that's fine. But as I tried to demonstrate with my examples earlier, even if they wanted to try to make something that made them feel the same way the series made them feel when they loved it, it's impossible, literally impossible, to make that thing appeal to the same audience in exactly the same way. Even movies like Harry Potter, which are largely praised by the book fans, people like me don't like the movies because they cut out a lot of elements that I felt were important. I guess I've never met a Lord of the Rings fan who loved the books that didn't like those movies, but that's probably the only exception I can think of. It's just an impossible task. Anyway, this is a often hot and controversial topic. What do you think about the subject? Do you actually think it's possible to recreate everything that everybody loved about a large book into a small movie? Did any of the practical examples that I sort of threw out there make you think about anything? Are you like me, where maybe you're starting to change your mind and be like, well, people that are making adaptations should be able to change a lot if they want to. They're creators too. Should they be allowed to make the creative changes they feel like they should to tell the parts of the story they liked? The reason so many remakes get made is because they're often associated with a brand that's already popular. That's the reason why a lot of adaptations get greenlit. Remakes are like a different form of adaptation, in a way. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the matter? Please leave in the comments down below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, but you like what I said here and you'd like to be able to see more, please subscribe. If you hit the like button, I'll know that I did a good job for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If it don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.